OBS Ninja is a website that allows you to take your cell phone and send that output over the internet back into OBS Studio. I've seen a lot of videos on how to use it, but none on how to do local installations and the SSL installation. To use OBS Ninja, you use your cell phone to connect to the OBS Ninja site. I'm going to use Firefox on my Samsung S20. When I tried it with Chrome, it kept locking up and wouldn't work. I tried it with a Note 8 with Chrome and it worked fine. So you'll open up your browser and go to obs.ninja. You'll get a prompt there that says add your camera to OBS. You may get some prompts that ask for permission to use your microphone and your camera. Just say yes on those. Once you're done, hit the start button. But then what you're seeing on your camera is what OBS will display. Now you have a link there that you need to put into OBS. I'm going to drag OBS over and switch to a different scene. In this scene, I want to put in that link that's listed on my cell phone, which is let's go to NGINX. Once you put that link in, OBS will show what is on your camera. So here is the output from my camera inside of OBS, and I can move this around so you can see what it looks like. OBS Ninja requires an SSL certificate to work properly. If you look at any SSL certificate, it's going to have a common name, and it's going to have a certificate authority that issued the certificate. This authority must be trusted by your browser in order for it to display correctly. I found a website that gives you information on how to create your own CA and how to install the certificate. You can just follow the examples down here and you create your own self-signed certificate, authority, and certificate. Now, when you scroll on down to the bottom, there's even a small shell script that you can use. And one of the things that they do is they provide an alternative name for the certificate. You can also provide an IP address as an alternative name. I followed the instructions. The only difference is I added 3 IPs, and you have to add them in this format to the bottom of the file. that's going to add subject alternative names to the bottom of the certificate. So once you follow the instructions for the SSL, you'll get a CA cert, a CSR, a key, and the actual cert that you're creating. Once the certs have been created, you have to configure your web server to use those certs. So these two lines tell my web server where to go to find those certs. So those certs have been installed on my web server. So when I open up that site, I get a connection, but I get the message that the certificate authority is invalid. Using OBS, figured out that if you go into the URL and type in whatismybrowser.com, it takes you to a website that figures out what your browser is. And this one shows to be Chrome 76 on Linux. So I thought maybe OBS was using my local browser, but I'm running version 87. So it looks like the OBS Studio has its own version of Chrome built into the program. So you still have to go in and enable the trust of that certificate authority. So these are the files that were created when I made the certificate and the CA. This file has the CA, which is a certificate authority. You have to take that certificate and import it to Chrome on the machine that's running OBS. So I copied the file. The name of the file doesn't matter. What matters is what's in the file. Copied the file to the machine that's running OBS. Going into settings on Chrome. Search for certificates. Got it right. CERT. Certificates under security. And scroll down to manage certificates. You want to go under authorities and hit import. You go to the file that you copied over, which has the CA certificate in it. Once you open it, you'll hit trust for identifying websites and hit OK. Just scroll down. You'll find the certificate that you created. Now, that name comes from the organization name that you put in when you were creating the certificate. It shows that this certificate authority is now trusted. And when I go back to that site, reload, I don't have the error anymore, and it says it's a valid certificate. So you've got your CN and you've got your CA here. And you check the details of the certificate. scroll down and look for the subject alternative name, and you'll have the information that you put in. I'm using 3 IPs because I have one for my KVM VM. I have one for my XCP VM, and then I have one for my NAS, which supports Docker also. So now we go back to our phone, which was still connected. We'll get out of that connection, and you have to type in the IP address. It's /OBS Ninja. So now your phone's connected back to OBS Ninja using the IP address. Now I tried mixing IP address and host name and it didn't work. So you have to use either one or the other. Either you're going to use the common name that's in the cert on both devices, or you're going to use the IP address on both devices. So it's the same thing. You add your camera, set your resolution. I don't need the microphone, and I hit start. Then again, it gives me a URL there that I can connect to. And then the output from your camera is now in OBS Studio. I'm going to switch over here so you can see it. So now I'm getting output from OBS Studio with my camera connected to a local VM here. And it's connected using the IP address. And the IP address is working because when you go and look at the certificate, the certificate has subject alternative names with the IP that I'm connecting with, and the browser now trusts it. So somehow OBS Ninja's Chrome respects the trust from the local installation of Chrome. So that makes it work either way. And you would think I would be satisfied with just getting everything to work. But then I figured out how to install OBS Ninja with Docker with the same certificate, which would allow you to use the IP address instead of the common name in the certificate. Now, this isn't a Docker tutorial. I assume you already know about Docker. So I'm just going to show you what I did to get it running. I created a very simple Docker file, told it to pull the web server. Within that web server, I'm making a directory for my certificates. This is the proxy settings that I use. Don't worry about that. But then I'm copying the certs that I created into the image file here. And I have a folder here called OBS Ninja-master, which is the zip file that I downloaded from the OBS Ninja site that has all the HTML. and I'm just copying it into the web servers folder. I then have a configuration for setting up SSL on the web server that I'm copying into the image file. And I'm only using TLS12 and disabling all the old ciphers. I've got that Dockerfile. I've got the certs here that I want to copy. I got the HTML code that I want to copy. I got the SSL config that I want to copy. So I have to first build the image. And this is the command that I'm going to use. It tells it to build an image and give it that name. The dot tells it to use the Docker file that's in the local directory. So it's doing all those steps, and I do an apt update and an apt get to update all the installed packages to make sure I have the latest thing. So it says successfully built. When I go in and look, I can see, where is it? I can see at the top here, I just created this image and I created it 7 seconds ago. The file size is 218 megabytes. Now compare that to having to do a full install of an operating system, then put your web server on. That's a couple of gigs at least. So I've got the image. Now I need to start a container that uses that image. And normally what you would do is you would run it and you would expose port 443, which is the SSL port. Now on this host, I have something already running on 443. So I'm actually going to put the container on another network and give it a static IP using this command. It tells it to run it, put it on this network, give it this IP address. This is the name of it, and this is the image file that it's going to use. So when I do a docker ps, see I've got an image here named OBS local IP, and it's running the image that I created. So when I go to OBS, I'm going to switch scenes again. In OBS, when you go to your browser source, if I go to HTTPS 25.113, you can see that it pulls in the OBS that's there. And to take it a step further, I will connect with my phone if I can find it. Here's your phone. I'll get out of the old one. All right, get out of the old one and I'll go to the new one, which is HTTPS : the comma home and 25.113. On the phone, I get the message about the cert, but that's okay. It'll still work. So now I'm connected to a Docker container running OBS Ninja. But I'll do the same thing. I add my camera. Get the warnings and hit allow. Again, I don't need the microphone. And I hit start. Can't see the URL, so let me push it back here. If I turn this button. Okay, I had to flip the phone to get the URL. So when I go into OBS, into my browser, type in that URL. Bring it back up. And there it is in the browser. So I could be on my machine, recording a video, showing you how to do something, moving around. And that's how it would work. That would have been enough. But then I remembered that I have a network attached storage. What do they call it? The NAS. And I remembered that it has some type of container station on it to run Docker containers. So I went over and looked at my NAS. It's a QNAP. It has something called a container station. I start looking around and there's a way to import. And it wants to import from a tar or TGZ file. I went again to my friend Google. I found the command that you need is docker export, then the name of the file that you're exporting and the image that you're exporting from. That will export the container's disk, basically. It'll export the image itself, not the container. So then I have this tar file, which is an image of this container that I just created. And I imported it into the container station. Once I imported it, I hit the plus button there and I created a container. Oh, it's down at the bottom down there. There's your containers. There's OBS Ninja. And you can see the container is running. There's the command that starts the container. Now for this container, I went into the network settings and I set it to bridge mode, and I gave it a static IP of 10.10.10.222. When we go back over to my phone, which is connected, we'll disconnect it. We'll then go to again, you get the warning about the certificate and the phone. It doesn't matter. Now I'm connected to the OBS Ninja that's running on my container station on my NAS. You can see it's not using much CPU or much memory. What I'll do is I'll add my camera, and I'll allow no microphone because I don't need it. High def, and I'll hit start. And again, there's a URL that I need. So back in OBS Ninja, I go to the browser, type in that URL. And it comes in right away. The camera's here. Oh, I need to get off that screen. So I'm on my NAS, and there's my camera input. All right. You can see why I got this going. I have 4 interfaces that are bundled together. It's an ether channel, basically. And they all come across this bond 0 interface. And you can see there's not much traffic coming across it. So the traffic for OBS Ninja is very light. So there you have it. OBS Ninja running on a VM, on Docker on a network attached storage, self-signed cert connecting with the IP address. Thank you for watching.